How does a guy who grew up in Queens and went to Montana to study wildlife biology end up being an award-winning chef in Portland, Oregon? Well, it's a story that doesn't need to be embellished. Gregory Gourdet, chef de cuisine at Portland's Departure restaurant at the Nines Hotel, is living the dream, cooking with local foods and making a name for himself and Oregon. While in college, Gregory developed a love for cooking and was encouraged to go to culinary school. Perfecting his talents, he moved back to New York City and worked for several years, getting his formal training at a 4-star restaurant in Manhattan. A desire for change took him to the West Coast and San Diego, and eventually the opportunity to move to Portland, where the Nines Luxury Hotel had opened downtown. A year after the Departure restaurant opened on the top floor of the Nines, he came on board as executive chef and has been dazzling guests and patrons ever since. Gregory has taken to Portland like a duck to water. He works indoors but enjoys the outdoors, and he recognizes the amazingly tasty foods and ingredients produced by Oregon agriculture. It didn't take long for him to discover the Portland Farmers Market and to make connections with local growers. Some of what he purchases is for himself at home, but he's always looking for something he can use for the restaurant. What he is finding is an inspiration for his creations. With Departure featuring modern Asian cuisine, the chef tries to balance the imported ingredients with local ingredients, which he says makes it possible to push all the flavors forward. His successful dinners, he says, are because he can use things like locally grown wasabi, wild-caught salmon from the Oregon coast, or freshly harvested Dungeness crab. Oregon values, such as sustainability and doing the right thing for natural resources, are important too. It's not just what is grown, but how it's grown. As Gregory says, he's been given a golden opportunity to produce amazing, creative food, and Oregon agriculture has been there for all of it. Seafood Oregon couldn't be prouder of Gregory, who last summer became the first chef outside the Gulf states to win the Great American Seafood Cook-Off held in New Orleans. Gregory topped 15 other chefs in the competition with his prize dish of slow-cooked Chinook salmon with butter clams, bacon, porcini mushrooms, roasted tomatoes, and crisp sea greens. The challenge of creating something unique to his home state using fish was no match for the chef from Portland. The panel of judges were blown away and proudly designated Gregory Gourdet as King of American Seafood. As awards go, this one is bestowed upon some of the best of the up-and-coming chefs in the U.S. Oregonians already know that Gregory has long since arrived. Gregory says whenever he leaves the state to compete or simply show off some of his culinary creations, he tries to represent Oregon as much as possible because of all the bounty from its farms, forests, and waters. You can put all those things on a plate and make something pretty spectacular. A great ambassador for Oregon foods, Gregory is everything that a native Oregonian should be, even though he's only been a resident for 3 years. It all makes sense to those who enjoyed the delicious entrees of Departure Restaurant. We honor Gregory Gourdet tonight as Chef of the Year.